And we're off. Welcome to our second episode of Upstart Live for our second season. I'm your host, Naim Kurt, and you're listening to Upstart Live, broadcast live from La Trobe University every Tuesday at 2 p.m. It's August the 23rd, and over the next hour, our team will be bringing you all the big news that have been breaking over the past week. Joining me in the studio as co-host is Alana Mazouk, who will be bringing us the headlines. Over to you, Alana.
Hello, listeners. This morning, British man David Taylor has admitted to hitting a police officer in Bali with a beer bottle. Taylor has been accused of murder for the death of the officer on Kuta Beach on Friday. Taylor, along with Australian girlfriend Sarah Connor, have both been detained for the alleged murder. A plebiscite on same-sex marriage is looking less likely, with the federal opposition determined to have a parliamentary vote to change marriage laws instead. The government has promised to have a national vote to determine whether same-sex marriage should be allowed. However, members of the Senate are all firm that a plebiscite is unnecessary, that making it impossible for the government to pass a law to have a national vote. Australia's university will today launch the first comprehensive national survey of sexual harassment and sexual assault on campuses to improve sexual harassment and assault policies. It comes after a study last year found that over 70% of respondents had experienced harassment.
Thanks for the headlines, Alana. I think that last news story is very important as well with having a national survey of sexual harassment. Of course, in our first season, last semester, we did cover that with the
Sash
hunting
had
grounds.
that story. It was huge.
And how have you been anyway?
Sick.
Sick?
But I'm back. I wasn't here last week. Sorry, everyone. But the voice is going well. No coughs yet.
And we did have Rachel filling in, and she did a fantastic job
Thank you,
in
Rachel.
your absence. How was your holidays?
I didn't get holidays.
No holidays?
I did winter school.
Winter school, working hard.
Yes.
All right. I think we've got a big show coming up.
We do.
What are some of the big stories coming up over the next hour?
Well, we've got Dan in the studio at the moment. He's going to be talking about the AFP and a police website crackdown. Melbourne has been voted again the most livable city.
For how many times now?
I think it's 6, but I don't really care.
But I think us two are a bit
Go
cynical,
Adelaide.
aren't we?
Yeah,
we're
very
cynical of that.
We'll be pushing the questions. And I think we've got another story by Kyle on Long Tan and how the veterans weren't even allowed to go to the memorial site. It was a pretty huge story.
Yeah, it's the 50th anniversary coming up, so they've missed out on that. But
bad luck, Vietnamese government. It's a bad look for you.
We'll debate that.
We'll debate it, yeah.
We'll see. I might have a different opinion to you on that.
Okay. I'm interested.
Anyway, we'll go over to Dan.
Yeah. Hi, Dan.
G'day, guys. How's it going?
Good.
So, as you said, this is this crazy story. So, the Australian Federal Police have been doing kind of all their power to shut down this pornographic website targeting underage and non-consenting school children from across the east coast of Australia. First off, I'd like to preface this story by saying, for any victims of abuse, whether physical, verbal, online, or sexual, we urge you to call the police and speak up. Make sure your voice is heard. Sexual assault is one of the most underreported crimes. And if you don't speak up, we as a society can't do anything to help. And unfortunately, within this new generation of abuse, it's kind of changed the landscape within the technological age. Smartphones, sexting, and such have really kind of changed the landscape and made way for this kind of website to appear more and more often.
What kind of website is it, Dan? Is it a internet forum? Is it an image sharing website? Do we know what it is?
The way it works is it's an online chat forum, according to this big police announcement. It's this big online chat forum that features thousands of underage and non-consenting adults, and they're shared by the boys and men.
Do we know how these websites got a hold of these images?
So according to police, it's happened in a bunch of different ways. So they've been user submitted, lifted from social media, and hacked through different accounts.
So this is statewide, isn't it? Because in South Australia, I know there's been 4 high schools that targeted about it as well.
Yeah, so nationwide, it's hitting 71 schools.
That's awful.
It's a huge number.
2,000 girls. So basically, the way they work is it's a completely anonymous-based website where they share and swap these share and swap all of these photos. Marcus Borman, one of the spokesperson for the Australian Federal Police, had this to say on it.
This was first reported to ACT Policing last Friday, and since then we've been making a number of inquiries, and I have a team set up who are looking into it. As I said, we're in the early stages, and these matters are very complex, and we've identified the website as being hosted offshore, and taking down a website that is not in Australia can be problematic, but we are engaging with our international counterparts, other government agencies, to take action in an attempt to close this website down.
So as of right now, there are reports that the website has indeed been taken down or at least blocked from Australian IP addresses. But now comes the issue of further action. The AFP told The Guardian on Friday that the action is considered within the parameters of child pornography. It's important to note that the creating, accessing, distributing, any kind of association with child pornography, even as an underage adult, is still considered within child pornography.
Are there new laws for the underage?
So there's been a lot of past information to try and bring it up, but nothing that I know of.
I mean, because it's always hard to try someone underage for having underage. It's like a 16-year-old boy looking at a 16-year-old girl, but technically,
yeah, it does kind of bring up that big question. But there hasn't been big precedent set to kind of set the parameters. It's mainly been within the more mature age individuals looking at the underage individuals.
Dan, do we know where this website was being hosted? Was it in Australia or elsewhere?
It was hosted overseas, which kind of caused a lot of the big issues.
And how did the police manage to shut it down? Because often a lot of these overseas websites, it is so difficult for authorities within Australia to find where the place is being hosted and get in contact with the other overseas governments to get it shut down.
So the AFP, in conjunction with the Vic Police, New South Wales Police and the Queensland Police, have all been corroborating with their international partners to try and locate the sourcing, but it's been more and more difficult. With overseas hosting, it does kind of create a needle in a haystack in some ways, where you're kind of looking for this one sourcing to kind of shut down the website, as well as trying to find the individual users, but with an anonymous online forum, it really is hard to kind of go within that parameters.
Is it the girls' fault for taking their own pictures and putting it on social media?
All right. See, this is one of the big age-old debates. So you have the idea of this is classified a lot of it's classified as revenge porn, where you have a former partner, the breakup ends quite badly, and they end up posting these kinds of photos online.
That were sent privately to them?
Yeah.
Yes.
This kind of... It has become kind of a trend, unfortunately. But with this anonymous usage and everything like that, there have been a lot of explanations. However, this has been nothing to kind of placate the barrage of very, very angry parents. So you have one such parent was Catherine Manning, and she took to social media after she found out the actions of her child's school. So instead of kind of providing that kind of level of support, she just kind of started laying...
What was she upset with the school about? Sorry?
So basically the way the school acted, instead of kind of providing that kind of support,
her child was caught up in
her
this.
child was one of the
image sharing
participants,
ring. Yeah.
unfortunately, and one of the victims that was posted up. And she ended up being dragged in by her school and given... and apparently... According to the posts, they were insulted, they were degraded. It was a whole kind of big barrage from
it's
high
certainly
body.
What you wouldn't expect from a school. They should really be supporting the victim here. And,
100%. Instead of kind of trying to help them out, any kind of services were kind of denied, this leading to this kind of enraged outburst. As for placing blame, Mr. Borman once again went on to say this.
I would also like to take this opportunity to reinforce to people and encourage parents and young persons to talk about the risks in relation to posting images on the internet. Once you post an image on the internet and you press send, you have no control. That image can end up anywhere.
Maybe put very, very simply, and while we may not like it, but this is the age in which we live now. This is the incredibly horrific truth of the internet. Once something is out there, it is well and truly out there. These kids are young and naive, and while we may not have acted out in the same way, there were times when we were completely naive to the ways of the internet. So you guys, when was the first time you started using the internet?
I might be showing my vintage here, mate, if I answer that. Probably grade 3 or grade 4. So what's that? 2000, the year 2000 probably started. Yeah.
I was definitely didn't have a computer that I was able to use until I was about 11, 12.
Well, when you started using it, did it impact you how huge this kind of
Yeah,
pool is?
MSN Messenger. I'm not sure how old everyone is, but MSN
remember
Messenger was
Oh
MSN
yeah,
the best.
it was a key thing.
Yeah, and also from that, everybody started going on.
I know I had no idea. First time I started using the internet, I was about 12. We had first gotten dial-up internet installed at our house, and I was just absorbed in the realm of internet games and MSN Messenger.
Yes.
However, childish naivete came into play when, with one click on this hacked file, completely corrupted my folks' computer. So that was
Kyle, do you have any tips that people can do
Dan?
to protect their children? Did I say Kyle?
Yeah.
Sorry, Dan. Sorry, mate. I've
it's
lost my
all
mind
good.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's always worth mentioning, even if it's been said to death, the fundamentals of internet survival.
Yeah.
So here are the simplest ways to kind of try and protect yourself online. Number one, protect your profile. Make many of those pictures were lifted straight from social media, and so tick every privacy box, enable every security setting, make it harder and harder for these strange people to access your profile. And keep an eye on it. Facebook updates all of these settings every kind of year or so and will reset back to its default settings. 2, anyone can be anyone online. So always make sure who you're sending to these informations, photos, etc. is relatively trustworthy. You can't just trust that little Bob in Facebook Messenger. And finally, if something happens, please, we urge you to report it. Don't be afraid. Don't be embarrassed. In fact, the only kind of mildly pleasant thing to come out of this story was the waves of support from online forums. There have been petitions, everything to try and
social media is good. That's a good side.
That
of
is the
social
good
media.
thing of social media. But
Alana, I do have can I ask Alana a question? I just had it's a bit of a curly one, but I'm interested to hear, especially as your viewpoint as a woman.
Yes.
Now, often we mentioned it before, a lot of people will say that, how can we reduce this? How can we reduce this problem? Some people would say that it's an issue of educating our young people in society, letting them know that when they share something that it mightn't always be shared with the people they hope for.
Yes.
But then, of course, there's the other side of the argument. People say that's victim blaming, and that it's definitely a culture, especially with males, that they're not respecting women. We've got society websites and whatnot where males aren't respecting women properly, and they're just... how do you see? How's the best way to tackle this issue?
I see it by I myself don't have Facebook. I don't have Instagram. I don't have social media. That's a personal choice. That doesn't mean that nobody can have social media. It's quite sad that you can't post a picture without worrying about how you actually look and how everyone's perceiving you nowadays. Is it good enough? Is there a good angle?
So perhaps you're saying the onus is more on people. You need to be careful of what you share and what you put out there.
Yeah, I think there's just the only way you can really worry about it is if you know somebody that's been victimised that way, and that makes you double think. You can read about it as much as you like. But thank you, Dan, for that story, by the way. He's run out of the room, but
we have Kyle
thanks,
Humphreys
Dan.
in now, who's talking to us about the recent lockout in Long Tan. It was the 50th anniversary, and soldiers have been locked out from commemorating the services there in Vietnam.
I would also like to take this opportunity
The Vietnamese government has advised the Australian government that it will not permit the ceremony to commemorate Vietnam Veterans Day at the Long Tan Cross site at 3:30 on 18 August to proceed.
The Vietnamese government has cancelled the commemorations at Long Tan in the 11th hour.
We were advised of this late yesterday afternoon.
Hanoi is concerned with the amount of people arriving to pay their respects. It is not all as it seems, as it is reported the Australian government had known about the concerns for at least a week. A statement Minister for Veterans Affairs, Dan Tehan, has denied. It isn't a complete lost cause, though.
And we understand small groups will have access to the site on the day. We will be continuing to make representations at the highest levels to have this decision overturned.
it seems the idea of low key is different for Vietnamese and Australians.
We have been working with the Vietnamese government for over 18 months for this, towards making sure that this commemoration took place in a low-key, dignified and respectful way.
Kyle Humphries, Upstart Media Network.
Okay, and we're back.
We're
here.
back.
Kyle, what did you make of the commemoration service? Do you think the Vietnamese government was right to restrict Australia's access?
I think they were. They've had issues with it for a couple of weeks. They've expressed their issues to people over there and the organisers, and I think they've let people in. They haven't. It's not a blanket ban. They've let small groups in. It's just the whole concert aspect of it, and about 1,000 people going over at once. They just didn't want all those people, and you've got to respect their rules because it's in their country, and they ultimately can do whatever they want.
How do you think Malcolm Turnbull handled the whole situation and the response to the Vietnamese Prime Minister?
I think he's sort of just...
He came out very quickly afterwards when they were denied. And
yeah, and he's expressed his disappointment and all that, which he's got every right to do. But ultimately, if it was the other way around, would you want or be happy with the Vietnamese dictating terms about what they wanted to do in Australia? Or can you imagine...
If it was done respectfully, it's just such a hard topic because, these men, this was their first time back for some of them, and they were just so upset and disappointed that they weren't able to
I think it's important.
Have access.
I think it's important to highlight too that Australia lost. That was the biggest battle Australia faced in the whole Vietnam conflict, which went for almost. I think Australia's involvement was something like 10 or 12 years.
Yeah.
But only 18 Australian soldiers died. I say only; it's still a huge number. But compared to the Vietnamese, I think they lost.
It was the Vietnamese' biggest loss
350
of the war. Yeah, it's the most losses in Vietnamese battle. Yeah.
So we have to understand that we suffered a lot, but
they suffered more.
They suffered more, and probably the hurt there. They've probably got feeling a lot more hurt than us.
Yeah, so it's still very sensitive over there. I've contacted a few Vietnamese students that I knew that study at La Trobe, and they didn't want to speak about it. So it probably says a little bit there.
It's just such a... I don't know. I don't even know what I think about it. I'm sorry.
I was reading today, interestingly, that with the concert being cancelled, which was being hosted by Little Patty. Now, she was youngest,
Little Patty.
She was the youngest person who first went as a singer in the 1960s, and the soldiers missed that concert because they were out fighting in the Battle of Long Tan. And now, the second time around, 50 years later, they've missed out on the concert again. So... History has a funny way of
repeating
itself. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Kyle. That was
No
Kyle
worries.
Humphries there. It's the time is 2:18, and we'll be going to shortly Rachel and Matt, who's going to come in and talk about Melbourne being the most livable city, which I guess Kurt and I are looking forward to.
We're going to pick them apart
Grill.
on this, aren't we?
Yes. So we're just going to have a quick break, and then Matt and Rachel will join us.
Welcome, Matt. Welcome, Rachel.
Hello, thanks for...
Okay, so you guys are aware that for the 6th year in a row, Melbourne's been rated Economist World's Most Livable City?
No way.
This ranking is considered of 30 factors relating to things like safety, healthcare, educational resources, infrastructure, environment, transport. So Melbourne's topped a lot of the lists around the world.
Yes, we did. We scored 97.5 out of 100. Adelaide was 6, and Sydney is now officially out of the top 10. They say that's due to perceived terrorism threats, but I personally think it's because of lockout laws because I'm upset about it.
So 6 years in a row is a pretty massive achievement for Melbourne. I think it's a credit to everything that has to offer. I don't know, Rachel, I don't know what other places you've been into for comparison, but do you reckon this is something you're agreeing with?
I agree with it. I've never lived anywhere else, but, we've got a pretty good nightlife, and I love the nightlife. I love to boogie. Arts and culture, it's all good. Public transport is, pretty decent. Could be better. But, yeah, apparently it's good in a worldwide context. What about you guys?
I don't really care very much. I think it's good, but I also don't know. You said that The Economist decided, and I just don't find that it's a credible source to do that. It's a bit questionable if I'm from Adelaide, and the fact that Adelaide's number 6 I should be happy about, but I'm super doubting it. I don't know why it's number 6. Yeah, and saying that, I'm happy that Melbourne has made it.
How do you find Melbourne, Alana, coming across from Adelaide?
Busy. It's very busy.
Is it livable though? That's the question.
No, it's too expensive.
Too expensive.
Yeah, it's way too expensive.
I mean, we talk about expenses. I mean, I read in the news just last week or a week ago that house prices in Sunshine of all places are hitting $1 million, and we call ourselves a livable city. But how can we be livable with so many people, especially young people, priced out of getting accommodation for themselves?
And at least Sunshine's near the beach. I mean, it takes 45 minutes to get to a decent beach. So here it's basically just urban and city living.
The urban sprawl.
Yeah.
Well, we actually asked some other Latrobians what they thought, and here are their opinions.
Recently, The Economist named Melbourne the world's most livable city. We asked La Trobe students what they thought. Were you both aware that Melbourne has been named The Economist most livable city?
Yes. I think even if we weren't all the advertisement and the, patting on the back sort of.
It likes to advertise itself as that.
Oh, do you agree that it is the world's most livable city?
I come from Perth, so in comparison, yes. I haven't lived in any other cities.
Yeah, I've lived in 2 other cities. It's pretty clean compared to that. Transport's pretty decent, so I guess so. Not really a position of authority here to say, to be honest.
So do you have any reasons why you think it is livable, apart from cleanness and transport? Anything in particular?
It's a bit cheaper than Perth.
And has better climate than Sydney.
And yeah, the transport's pretty good.
No one likes Sydney. Do you know that wasn't even in the top 10? They're completely out now.
I'm not surprised.
Were you aware that Melbourne has been named The Economist most livable city?
I certainly was, for the 6th year in a row.
Oh. Know your stats. Do you agree with this rating?
Yeah, I think Melbourne is a really good city to live in. I think you're afforded a really nice lifestyle here. And there are, we have a really strong culture. There's amazing subcultures. If you want to do things, there's access to them. We've got quite a decent public transport system. But at the same time, I don't think that all the positives mean that we should rest on our laurels, in a sense that, I'm about to graduate and get a grad job, but, buying a house or getting a mortgage in a few years just looks impossible. I'm at the stage where I think I should be renting for life, Then there are things like this, aspects to living here where public transport is quite expensive, where housing is, a lot of young people are locked out of the market. Food is very expensive that, make it more difficult to live here or difficult to see a sustainable future living here. So I think whilst we need to celebrate and enjoy the incredible things about Melbourne, because there are so many of them, we also need to be concerned about where we head as a future as a city and how we make sure that, we're not boxing people out of things that they're essentially entitled to. Oh, I sounded really middle class there.
Do you agree that Melbourne is the most livable city as per the Economist rating?
Look, I reckon Melbourne's a great place to live if you've got some money. It would be a lot less fun if you were, say, a student who relied on government handouts to live week to week. But if you've got a job, then there's plenty to do in Melbourne. Just look at how great the weather is. There's no better place than Melbourne in spring.
What's your favourite things about Melbourne?
I don't know, the footy.
Dope, cheers.
Yeah, that's really interesting. That I think they kind of share your opinion about, with the raised house prices and whatnot. We may have this title at the moment, but with what's been going on, there is a chance that we might be losing it in future.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if they're the top 6 and they keep being like that, it makes sense that people would want to move here, and then expanding population and...
Yeah, and I think I'm just a bit worried. I mean, taking nothing away from Melbourne, coming here, there's like, you can do anything, any time of the day, any time of the night, and there's people out all about all the time. You never feel like you haven't got something to do, which is great. But my biggest worry as someone coming away from, not from Melbourne and coming into Melbourne, is that they're just building so many apartments and they're taking away all the classic buildings that Melbourne has to offer and taking away that kind of vibe. So, yeah.
Well, not all of us are going to be able to have houses with population growth. So I guess apartments are realistically what we're looking at. Although personally, I have always wanted to have the half-acre block with a proper house.
And 6 dogs.
Yeah, of course.
All the dogs. No, but it's interesting the fact that with the survey, they really rate mid-sized cities with low population density a bit higher.
Yeah.
So places like New York or London don't really get high on the list, even though they've got so many iconic things to them. They're never rated high.
I think Melbourne's vast parklands as well also helped to boost up our rating there.
Hey, Matt, who was last on the list? Did you say Damascus? Did I hear that? All right, maybe I read that myself.
I think you might have read that one.
It was Damascus.
It was Damascus.
You did hear right.
War-torn Damascus. So, that's probably.
It's interesting to see the other side of the spectrum. So, that's rude. You shouldn't rate the worst city. It's a bit rough.
Well, look, at least we're not Sydney.
Yes, exactly. Getting shoved out of the top 10.
Yeah, whatever. It's just Sydney. They have everything anyway. The one thing I have learnt coming to Melbourne is that it's very like, Adelaide hates Victorians, Victorians hate Adelaideans, but everybody hates Sydney.
Yep.
I don't know. I love everyone apart from
Matt.
Apart from the Sydney lockout laws. Everything else is good.
Yeah.
Well, we did try lockout laws in 2008 for about 3 months, and then we decided not to because we have common sense.
Yes.
And then, of course, in 2010, there was a Save Live music rally. I just think we're more protective of our culture and we're more protective of our nightlife here, I guess.
Yeah, I think you're right, Rachel, and that was really interesting hearing from you both on.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel and Matt.
Thank you so much.
It was really lovely to talk about Melbourne. All right, well, what time is it? We're hitting 2 now. You're with Kurt and Alana here on Upstart Live, running every Tuesday.
Coming up, we have The Cut, What the What, Hit or Miss. But
Olympic
first,
analysis?
It'll be the Olympic analysis with Josh and Kyle.
So we're back in the studio now, and we're joined again by Kyle Humphreys and also Josh Schonefinger, who are going to do the Olympic analysis for us, which wrapped up on Sunday.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Yeah, it was a pretty hectic 2 weeks, but it's all done and dusted now. And Kyle, what were your thoughts on the games?
The most disappointing aspect I thought of the games was the crowds. They just didn't fill any stadium, and there was just no atmosphere in the main Olympic stadium apart from the 100-metre final. And you look back and you look at the other Olympics, London, Beijing, there's just like this aura around the crowd where the races are off and there's just cameras flashing and a really, really big buzz. But there just didn't seem to be that in Rio.
Yeah, I agree with you. And of course, it was a disappointing games for Australia as well, as we finished 10th on the medal tally. As we just have a look at our total figures. Only 8 gold and only 27 medals in total, which was our worst medal tally since the 92 Barcelona Olympics. I think there might have to be some sort of look into that.
Yeah, they aim for 35, so... And majority of that does come from swimming and maybe a little bit of the velodrome and in the bikes. Yep. But it is disappointing. They got to look at there will be funding looked at. So you just don't know. They will debrief and sort it out.
Yeah.
So.
USA, Great Britain, and China were typically dominant, and we only had 2 gold medalists in the second week of competition. Chloe Esposito in the modern pentathlon. Did you catch any of this event?
I didn't really. I saw it at the end, the shooting, and I didn't really know what was going on. She was shooting a gun.
I've been training so hard since London and even before London, and I was just waiting for the day that it would all come together, and I knew I'd have one day that it just all gel, and today was the day. I've been training so hard since London and even before London, and I was just waiting for the day that it would all come together, and I knew I'd have one day that it just all gel, and today was the day, and it's the Olympic Games, and I couldn't be more proud.
So congratulations to Chloe and Hope, and we might even see a bit of interest now in modern pentathlon in Australia.
Yeah, they could be. Normally inspires people to get into it with the gold medal. What is it? It's horse riding, fencing, swimming, shooting,
and then a run.
And then a run.
Yeah, so you've got to be good at quite a lot of things, don't you?
Yeah, it's pretty random mix. I wasn't too sure of what it was before she won. So, yeah, good luck to her.
Yeah, now we all know. And Tom Burton won gold for Australia in the laser sailing event. It was back-to-back golds for Aussies in this event, with Tom Slingsby winning the gold in London. And with his whole family watching him, here's what Tom Burton said after his victory.
Throughout the race, I passed a few boats and was slowly, closer to the front, and all I needed was 2 boats on the last run. So, I passed one, and then, right towards the end, I was getting super close to passing the other one. And I just got worm on him at the end before the last mark, and, that's where the gold medal was won.
Yeah, the sailing there was sort of similar situation to the girl who won the modern pentathlon. They've just come from way behind, or in this case, a long way behind in silver for the sailor by a little tricky move he did at the start to the Croatian sailor, and got over the line.
I've got to say, I heard that Burton was a medal chance, so I tuned into the event, and I had absolutely no clue what was going on. They're going backwards, they're going sideways, there's lines all over the screen. It was confusing.
Yeah, and the thing where he got the points was like a little forcing him to do a false turn before the race even started. So, yeah, he tried to explain it, but it's a little bit over my head.
Straight over the head. And obviously the big name, Usain Bolt, won the triple with his 4x100 metre medal run. Did you catch that race?
Yeah, I watched all his races, and they were never in any doubt whatsoever.
That last leg of the relay, that was explosive.
He, because he's in a team, he doesn't sort of muck around, does he? So he just puts a foot right down to the end, so he doesn't let down the other 3. That the Japanese runner was probably level with 60 metres ago, and he just put the nitros on again, and off he goes.
Never in doubt for the big man. That's all we've got for the Olympic wrap-up. We all had a bit of fun, I think.
Yeah, it's good. I like talking to you, Josh. You're a good bloke.
Thanks, mate. And now we go on to Tokyo in 2020. Shinzo Abe, the Japanese Prime Minister, came out of the tube as Mario at the closing ceremony.
Yeah, I did see that. Very interesting. Japanese Olympics and their opening ceremony, and the whole Olympic Games is going to be very exciting. They're going to do it very well, very over the top, and there'll be heaps to look at on and off the track.
More than 8 golds there, I'm sure.
Thanks, Kyle and Josh, again. That was great.
And will you be coming back for the Paralympic segment?
I think we will.
Probably will. We've got Ahmed Kelly.
Upstart's very own
Ahmed Kelly. So yeah, we'll be looking for him in the S2-23, I think it is, classification in the swimming. So
can't wait to talk to you guys about that.
Yeah, we'll see you then. Thanks. And Kurt, did you get into the Olympics?
I did, but as it's pretty. Well, I didn't really.
Okay.
To be honest. I'm saying I did. I didn't, and I think it's pretty clear as this show's gone on. I'm just a cynic, and I think I read something. $11 million was spent per each Olympic medal.
What did I read another stat. The Quebec 76 Olympics, they only paid back their debt in 2016, so this year.
Yeah.
So 40 years.
I just wonder, so much of this money is being spent for us to get such a paltry medal tally.
I just don't know what I feel about the Olympics are important, but with what it does to
with so much
certain
cuts
countries,
to the CSIRO, to health and science, there's money that we could be putting into that.
Definitely.
But some other people enjoy the Olympics and they think it's worthwhile.
And now we have Denise. Hello,
Hello, guys.
How are you? From Upstart.
I'm very well, thank you.
Deputy editor It's a huge title, so we were very lucky to listen to
Dennis,
him.
you should tell us what Upstart is before we start.
Yeah.
Well, Upstart is a student-run weekly publication. We gather every Monday. We have a meeting and staff writers pitch their ideas to. There's 3 editors this semester.
Mhm.
They pitch their ideas to us, and then we work with them to create weekly stories.
We say it's a student-run publication, but it
Yep.
is very serious
But it's
journalism.
very professional, yeah.
Very professional. And you've chosen for us the 3 biggest stories of the week. So what have we got up first, Dennis?
Before you start, Denise, sorry, are these all up online right now?
Yes, these can be found on upstart.net.au,
Great.
the website.
Sorry, go for it.
Well, we had a major development last week. Joan de Guzman, one of our staff writers, he covered the student and staff protest at La Trobe University, which was held in Agora on Wednesday morning. And around 100 supporters joined and raised a fist in solidarity for a photo with Salman Saeed, who is a PhD student at La Trobe University. And her family was, their visa was rejected in 2015 on the basis that their son, who suffers from autism, was a burden on Australia's healthcare system.
So they came from Bangladesh to Australia, I think, in 2007 or 2008?
Yeah, they've been living in Australia for 10 years.
And they had their visa rejected
Yep.
because of their son's case of autism. And
Yep.
this protest was organised by the student union, wasn't it?
Yep, by La Trobe University.
To support them and try and get them to stay in Australia. Do we know what's happened since then?
Yep.
Do we have an update?
Well, we have good news. The Assistant Minister for Immigration, Alex Hawke, actually overturned the decision, so the
Very
family
good.
is now able to
Great.
stay in Australia.
On a resident visa?
Yes.
Brilliant.
Permanent.
That's good to hear. I'm happy for La Trobe, and that's very good of everyone that rocked up last week to do that. It just shows the La Trobe spirit.
Yep.
Yeah, and we should. There was a letter written as well by John Dewar, the Vice-Chancellor, who gave a supporting statement, so that might have pushed them across the line.
Maybe.
So La Trobe doing their part there. What's the second story we have?
Our
Vince?
second story was written by Thomas Odell, who is a second-year student in our team. He wrote a story on electrician Sally Liddell, who is rewiring stereotypes, and she's overcoming the stereotype that female tradies, it's not a societal norm, I guess, and they only make up 24.4% of Australia's utility industry, and the utility industry is pretty much gas services, water services, electric services,
Do
and
we know
wastage.
what trade Sally's practicing in?
She's an electrician.
Electrician,
Yeah.
okay.
I think this
Sparky.
is a really good story, especially because not everybody wants to go to university and have
Yep.
a degree. They want to work. And
We should note that she did go to university, though. She.
well, that's okay. But
I
I'm
think she
saying
did
A teaching degree.
Teaching degree for a
it's
few
quite
years, and she's-
rare for, say, a 16-year-old girl to go into an apprenticeship
Yeah,
in
sure.
electrician and mechanics and things like that. Whereas the trade, that's where all the money is right now. I don't even know why we're here, Kurt.
Yeah, would you find a female tradesman more trustworthy, perhaps, than a male?
See, I don't know. I mean, if I was a homeowner and I had a builder come that was a female who had dainty little arms, I'd be like, how are you going to fix my house? But I mean, that's just my old woman way of thinking, I don't want to think like that, and I want more girls to come out there and be professional builders. And do
Dennis, do we know if there's an increase in women taking up any trades? I think there was a quote there from Adam Todorovsky from Melbourne Polytechnic.
Yep, well, there hasn't been an increase in electrical courses, but there has been a wider increase elsewhere. He's quoted as saying there's been a definite rise in numbers for our welding and wood-related trades.
So that's more
in women.
females are getting
Yep.
involved. So I
Yep.
think that's fantastic. And as we move towards a society with
Yeah.
more automation, more automated jobs, it means that women and men will have to work the same jobs, and it won't be so
One-sided.
One-sided, yeah.
Now, your next story intrigues me. It's shortage of
It doesn't
soy milk.
intrigue me though, because I hate coffee.
Oh,
and
do you?
Yes.
I don't drink coffee with milk. So, but bonsai, I know as a fact is a super popular milk
Yeah.
drink. And I remember I get my coffee from the library. What's the cafe called?
Writer's Block.
Writer's Block. And I remember seeing their sign. That's actually on
Yeah.
your website. The picture of it saying we've got a bonsai crisis. And I was
Yeah.
like, I don't think it's a crisis, but apparently it is.
It is a crisis for the loyal bonsai drinkers, and our writer Matthew Marasco covered this story. Apparently an earthquake, the Kumamoto earthquakes in Japan in April 2016 directly affected the bonsai distribution in Australia, and this obviously left soy milk drinkers in dismay.
And apparently soy drinkers are now switching to black coffee because they don't have the bonsoy milk anymore.
Well,
Is that correct?
As a black coffee drinker, good on them. Enjoy
Good on
it.
them. I think
Go for it.
this news about the soy milk has got hipsters crying into their mugs all across inner city
into their
Melbourne.
knitted scarves that they
Knitted
knitted
scarves.
themselves
Yeah.
on the tram while reading a book.
Well, thankfully, the bonsoy latte drinkers can
Oh,
stress
yeah.
less as the shortage is
Back?
ending. Yeah, it's
Oh.
ending.
Well, thank you so much for that, Denise.
No
That was
worries.
great having you in here. And,
Thank you, guys.
If you want to check it out again, go on to upstart.net.au. You're here with Kurt and myself, Alana. It's 2:40, and we've got Rachel back in again. Rachel Roberts, hello, with Choose the News.
Yes, indeed. This week on Choose the News, we are talking about the tragic fallen hero and the internet sensation Harambee.
Harambee. Okay, what's happened to Sam? He was hosting this last week.
He was, but I really wanted this story, so I just had to
All
do away
right,
with
Rachel's
him.
doing it now. Fantastic.
Yeah, so it's almost been 3 months since the killing of Harambee, who, for those who don't know, was a 17-year-old Western lowlands gorilla who lived and died in Cincinnati Zoo. The story is pretty upsetting. There was a 3-year-old boy who climbed over the fence and fell into his enclosure. Harambee went to go investigate the child, but then everyone was screaming at the commotion from the zoo visitors. He became very stressed and felt threatened, and so the zoo officials made the decision to shoot him for the safety of the toddler. It was a very controversial decision, and ever since he died, the internet has decided to express their grief in the only way they know how, by making lots of dank memes. So Harambee has been named Meme of the Summer and in the US, and we don't see it getting old anytime particularly soon. So as we can see, one popular Harambee meme is Bush did Harambee, which is an obvious reference to the 9/11 conspiracy theories, which are a meme in themselves. And another large proportion of the hysteria is the mock campaign, which is called Dicks Out for Harambee. You can buy Dicks Out for Harambee.
What's going on. What's a dank meme?
A dank meme is...
We're too old for this.
I know.
Get on the internet. Get on social media.
Oh, okay.
I'm a technological Luddite, I think.
Yeah. What? Seriously, what is a dank meme, though? I'm so out of it.
Dank is internet slang for just like radical or like pretty cool.
Nice. Okay.
But that is what the mock campaign is called, and you can buy a T-shirt with that slogan for $35 if you'd like to help the cause.
Wow.
The saying has gone viral with help of celebrity endorsement, and the actor Danny Trejo, who is...
So celebrities
Machete.
are endorsing...
Oh, well,
are
Danny
endorsing
Trejo is.
Penises out for Harambee. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Why?
If you just
What?
wait one
Can
second,
you
we
see
can
gorillas' penises?
we can just see the vine.
Okay,
No,
well.
you can't. No one actually does that.
Oh, okay.
It's just a saying. Okay.
Oh, good grief. Thank God.
So yeah, just we'll
All right.
go to the
Rachel's got some
vine.
pics.
Dicks out for Harambee, you know what the it is.
Hey, dicks out for Harambee.
Yeah, so that's some internet activism. And in other internet activism, the zoo director, Thane Maynard, had his Twitter account hacked, and then a lot of people posted hashtags for Harambee and other tribute posts on his Twitter. And then eventually they took it down and got it back under control.
So this was the man that decided to...
No, he didn't decide to. He was just the director of the zoo. So
I was gonna
he
say that's a bit...
has the end responsibility, but no, he
Yes.
didn't actually do it.
Okay.
And again, here in Australia, there's a DJ called Laura Lux who got an ink tribute to Harambee last week, so she won't be forgetting him anytime soon. So yes, she put a little status on Twitter and said, if I get enough likes, then I'll get this tattoo, and she did. But of course, like most things on the internet, a few people have decided not to keep it classy, and there have been some pretty inappropriate jokes, but let's not validate them by talking about them too much. But what is actually really interesting about Harambee is why hasn't it gone away? It's been 3 months. Surely we get over things this quickly, but apparently not. There have been quite a few think pieces about why maybe it hasn't gone away. Aja Romano of Vox believes that it has to do with the fact that the Harambee meme appeals to all sides of politics. She says that if you are a progressive, the Harambee meme gives you a chance to mock what you viewed as the hypocritical scolding of mainstream media while avoiding the real social justice issues. And if you're a conservative, the Harambee meme gave you a chance to mock liberal hysteria. Now, I don't really know about that. Brian Fieldman pointed out that it's the lack of marketing that's responsible for the meme, because usually there'll be a meme and then someone will adopt it and use it as a marketing scheme. But this is just a bit too dark, so no one has touched that, and that's why it's still remained funny. Cincinnati Zoo has recently released a statement, as in very recently, last night. The director, Thane Maynard, came out and said he's not amused. He's not amused by these memes, and that the zoo family is still healing, and that these jokes are not helping, and that if we really want to help Harambee, we should contribute to guerrilla conservative efforts.
That's where I agree.
So I think the message there is the internet needs to cut it out.
Yeah.
Just lay off Harambee.
Potentially, yes.
Okay, well, thank you for that. Choose the News. It was very interesting.
It's the lowdown.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks, Rach.
And you're listening to Upstart Live. We're broadcasting live every Tuesday. It's 15 minutes to 3. And coming up next, we have Hit or Miss with Morgan and Josh, our sports show. Sports wrap-up.
We're back with Morgan and Josh for their sports segment Hit or Miss. How are you both?
Good.
Still well,
yeah,
thank
still
you.
well,
Yep.
Josh. Good. That's good.
Big breaking retirement in AFL yesterday.
I
You gotta
called
tell
this,
us.
everyone, by the way.
Spot
do you
on.
remember in this meeting yesterday?
I do.
And I was like, he's 100% retired.
I remember that.
It was a guess. I had to admit to Josh that it was a guess. But I guess right.
Yeah, that's Collingwood's Dane Swan, who we're talking about. After 258 games, he's decided to hang up the boots on a very decorated career, Morgan.
Absolutely. It's a bit disappointing, or not disappointing, because obviously it's his choice, but to go out on an injury, or not what you want really, but yeah, he's been a sensational player, and I've been happy to be in his, in watching his era. So
Yeah, that's right. Very happy to see a few of his games live. He's a Brownlow medalist, a premiership player.
Yep.
But probably not the biggest AFL story of the week.
No, surprisingly. The banana incident, Port Adelaide, when a spectator threw a banana at Indigenous player Eddie Betts.
Yeah, 27-year-old has been banned indefinitely by the club, and president of Port Adelaide, David Koch, threatened to revoke her membership. Not a very pleasant situation to talk about.
Not at all.
I have an update for you, Josh. As a Crows fan, I've definitely been keeping up to date with this.
Sure.
So she got her membership stripped for this year, but if she chooses to come back to the club and renew her membership, she has the option next year. However, she has to go and do some counselling with an Aboriginal group.
Yeah.
And do some
Cultural education.
Cultural education, that's it.
I think that's a great idea and a good initiative by the club, because I think they've been the ones who've organised that for her.
Yeah, they got onto it really quick as well, which is
Yeah, that was the
positive.
issue really well, yep.
Yeah.
They're still Port scum. Go Crows.
And further west across the country, the Eagles had a big win on Friday night over the Hawks.
Huge upset.
Not many expected that.
Not many at all. Interesting game, that.
Yeah, it's
Lots of injuries.
Yeah, it's going to really hurt both of these sides' chances, because they both lost Ruckman, Nick Natanui, and John Segler, respectively.
Yeah, going down with Nick Nat had an ACL injury. Yeah.
Yep.
So that'll probably bust them out for next season as well.
Such a shame, because he's had lots of injuries over his pretty short career, really.
Yeah, it's upsetting for sure.
In the NRL, a little bit of controversy there in the...
More controversy.
Just another week in the NRL. In the change rooms, Chris Lawrence from the West Tigers brought out his mobile phone to text his wife, but you're not meant to have mobile phones in the
No, you're
change
not
rooms.
meant to have them. And the integrity units are discussing this matter at the moment, and I think they're a bit concerned with match fixing. I think that's the problem, even though it was probably legitimately him saying, yeah, love, I'm all good.
Yep.
But, it'll be interesting to see what happens with that.
No, I think it's a genuine concern, and I'm happy with the uproar that's around there.
Yeah.
If he needs to contact I mean, it sounds bad, but if he needs to get in contact with someone from the club, an official would be able to do that for him.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, isn't it? Or just wait till after the game, I guess.
Yeah, that's right.
But there'll be lots of after-game chats about things, so there's lots of time to do it. You don't really have to do it during the game.
But during the match, I guess the West Tigers weren't expecting to lose that one, and they were down by a lot, so there was a bit of cloud around that. But just happy that nothing sinister's come out of that.
Yeah.
And so there's only 2 rounds to go in the NRL, and the Storm sit on top. The Sharks are in second place, and the Raiders, who have had a good win out of the box, they're in third position at the minute.
Lovely. And cricket, after a very, very disappointing test series in Sri Lanka. Not fantastic, but better news ahead. The ODIs, the one-day internationals, have started, and we won.
Yeah.
Won the first one.
First win of the tour.
Yeah.
3 weeks in, it's finally good to get a win.
Yep.
And a 3-wicket victory over the Sri Lankans, with Mitch Starc taking his 100th wicket in one-day international cricket, and he was the fastest ever to do that.
Yeah.
Great wrap up. Thank you very much, guys, for that sport. That's Josh and Morgan just there. Next, we're going to be going to the Cup with Jake and Georgie. It's 2:50, and we'll be back in a sec. And so we're here with Jake and Georgie, and they're going to be introducing their segment, The Cut, which I believe is all about new movies coming out, guys.
Oh, just the general kind of thing.
It's pop culture.
We're still figuring it out. It's pretty
nice. New. Okay. I'll let you.
Cool. So,
cut
how you going, Georgie?
I'm good, Jake. How you going?
Very good.
That's good.
So I think we're running a little bit behind today.
A tad.
we have a lot of stuff to kind of get through. First up, I think we're going to discuss about the Star Wars Rogue One trailer, the new one that just came out.
Yes, indeed.
And I think it's drawn a lot of attention, not just because it's Star Wars, but they've actually shown a bit of Darth Vader in it, one of the greatest
super villains. Adam is giving me daggers. I'm scared about saying the wrong thing. But yeah, no, kind of a darker...
One of the greatest movie villains in movie history.
Exactly.
And we were just talking earlier about how it's nice that it's actually a Star Wars film that isn't actually based in the Star Wars, the Skywalkers.
Like, it's nice
to kind of get away from that and look at something else.
Yeah, we've had 40 years or so of Skywalker-ness, so it's good to get a bit of and a darker approach as well.
Well, that's the thing. Like, apparently it was too dark that they actually had to go and do some reshoots to make it sort of lead into the original 1977 Star Wars.
Yeah, because it's the prequel too.
Yeah.
And but there's some inconsistencies between the first and the second trailer. I think the hair length of some of the actors are off. Like they've maybe great intention, but execution hasn't been so seamless, I think.
Yeah, well, I guess we'll have to wait and see till it actually comes out.
We will. Maybe the first Star Wars movie I ever watch.
Speaking of movies that are just coming out, Ben-Hur also came out, which is a remake of the Hollywood classic, which I think that should not have even been touched.
Oh, absolutely not.
If I was a director and someone came up and offered me this role, I would just be like, no.
You'd laugh in the face and get out of Hollywood.
I'd rather direct a scary movie than a Ben-Hur movie.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, it was nominated when it came out for 12 Academy Awards and won an unprecedented 11. So next to, I think it's Titanic and one of the Lord of the Rings films, it's one of the movies of all time that's won the most Academy Awards.
Yeah.
And I think to have, Morgan Freeman, that's their only saving grace in this film.
I heard...
I
heard something that Morgan Freeman gets a freckle for every movie that he does.
It's a good theory.
Yeah,
definitely. Well, he seems more freckled in Ben-Hur, so...
Maybe they had to offer him a few extra ones for that movie.
I think he got about 10 for Ben-Hur.
But, and the Hollywood Reporter just reported this morning that it actually opened with $11 million, which comes in at 5th place, which is just straight up a flop, apparently. But these days with video on demand and stuff and all that stuff, who knows?
Yeah, it's a flop, but it is. They're already at 10% of what their budget was, which was 100 million. So if they've already made 10% in one weekend, they might be on the track to at least covering their costs.
I reckon it'll be at least a 60% drop next week.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt it.
But it's just you can just see from like the old trailer and the new trailer, like just comparing them together, like the old one just looks like a classic, and then the new one just looks like it's all green screened.
I was about to say it's superimposed, like super dramatized, and I know it's a dramatic story, but it feels almost like it's making a joke of itself. And I think the fact that, I don't know, Morgan Freeman, I love him. Shawshank Redemption, even Bruce Almighty, he's quality.
Is he
I don't
in
know.
the new Spider-Man too? Because there seems
Spider-Man Homecoming, actually.
Is he in it as well?
No.
I don't think he's in it.
Oh my God, imagine if he was. No, I was correcting you.
So people are upset about this. What is it, Spider-Man what?
Homecoming.
So Mary Jane, one of the iconic characters in the Spider-Man universe, I guess.
Supposed to be cast to play Mary Jane in Spider-Man Homecoming.
And she was a big Disney star as well.
Huge Disney star.
Talking like Jonas Brothers sort of.
Oh yeah. And that's where she established her fan base, and I think there's just a bit of backlash because she doesn't meet the stereotypical Mary Jane. Fans aren't too happy.
Well, wasn't that the case with the Ghostbusters movie as well?
Being all female?
Yeah, they did the stereotypical black female role, and I mean, I don't really care if a black woman's playing Mary Jane, but I can understand, like, if you're going off of a comic book, why wouldn't you try and
absolutely, yeah, it's a question. Yeah, it's like kind of that fine line you have to walk between, your creative license and remaining integral to the original work, I guess.
Now, why do I see that you're both talking about The Bachelor? No.
Well, it was a backup. The backup Bachelor.
Okay, that's
so I don't think we need to discuss.
No, maybe next week if there's outcry for it. But,
if nothing in pop culture eventuates, then we might cover the Australian Bachelor.
So that basically wraps up what we were saying.
Well, thank you very much, Jake and Georgie.
No worries.
We're going to be back in a minute with Morgan and Georgie again. I think you're staying with us
yes.
for What the What.
Absolutely.
So we'll be back here after this break.
Georgie, did you say that you haven't watched Star Wars before?
Yes.
I'm appalled.
Did you say that?
Yes, I said that.
Georgie?
I'm shocked and appalled.
I'm sorry, guys. We should have a movie night.
I haven't seen Ben-Hur, so does that make
the original?
Yeah, but
I haven't seen Ben-Hur.
Oh, okay.
I'm not qualified to be the pop culture segment.
Well, you are qualified to be the What segment with Morgan.
And I'm especially qualified to talk about the first story, which was a Facebook study regarding cat people versus dog people. And it actually, I mean, I am a feline fanatic, completely obsessed. Look at my Instagram, it's all of my cat. And this Facebook study actually found that cat lovers, Tia, are more likely to be single compared to dog lovers. Yeah, sad, but I can handle it.
Kurt and I are dog owners.
Yeah.
And are you single? I don't even know. Are you single?
I'm single, so that's not true.
Yeah.
That study's not true.
But I have a dog
There's
and
only
a
a 6%
cat.
difference.
Okay.
So 24% of the Facebook users who, it was based on their photos. So if they posted photos of their cats, then they were single. But 30% of dog owners, 25% of dog owners were single, 30% of cat owners were single. So there's a marginal difference. But
There's
the good
hope
thing
for
is,
you yet,
there's hope for
Georgie.
me yet. Exactly. Thank God. I need all the help I can get.
What's our second story?
Second story. Who doesn't love Nutella? So in French court, they have blocked some parents for trying to name their baby Nutella because it would make her the target of mockery. So the register that recorded the birth actually flagged the name to the local prosecutor who took it to family court, and they said no Nutella, and they renamed her Bella.
Oh, well.
Oh, Ella, sorry. Ella.
Oh, okay. Well, both is still good, I guess.
Yeah,
They could
yeah.
tell her that her name's Nutella, but in the birth certificate, say
Yeah,
Nutella
yeah.
to Ella? Oh, that's still weird. I don't know. You've got to think. What did I hear? I read somewhere. It was like, make sure that if you name your dog or your cat, you can be happy yelling it out in the public. And do that.
Yeah, imagine not yelling Nutella out across the field.
Come here,
It just
Nutella.
makes you salivate.
Dinner's ready, Nutella.
Well, thank you so much, girls. That what there were some. God, there's some funny stories out there.
there is.
Kurt and I have to leave now, unfortunately, but we'll be back next week.
We will be back at the same time, 2 p.m. Every Tuesday. And thank you so much to all the reporters who put in today, everyone who presented, our executive producers, producer Dan Martin and
Martinez
and
his Spanish
Phil
or something.
and,
No, he's Greek, I think, with a Spanish name. And of course, Phil, the other Greek.
and our technician lady.
Marg,
yeah.
the legend Marg, who always helps us. To Jake and Adam in the background as well. We'll see you next week, guys.